YouTube? How are you doing? And welcome to the Ghost Tier List. We're gonna be rating every single ghost in Phasmophobia on a tier list. I haven't done this in a very long time. The last time I did this, there were only 14 ghosts in this game. Now there are 21 ghosts in this game, and a lot has changed in the game. If you want to watch the last tier list, I'll link that one over here. However, it's basically completely outdated because there's just been so many changes. So many ghosts have been added to the roster, and a lot of the ghosts have had changes as well that were already in the game before. We're gonna be rating them on a few different things. The main gist of it is the higher the ghost will be on the list, the more dangerous it is to go against. This can come in a few factors. How lethal is it during a hunt? That is a very strong factor. Does it have any supporting abilities to make it hunt earlier? Like early hunting is very strong. How hard is it to detect? If you can figure out the ghosts extremely easily, then there's no reason to stick around for a long time, so you're probably not going to get hunted. So if the ghost is very strong during a hunt, but it is very easy to figure out, then it might not be as strong as another ghost that is harder to figure out. So yeah, that's basically the idea. We're just going to have a lot of fun. I don't want to be tied by these opinions forever. Stuff changes all the time, so there might be ghosts that become stronger, there might be ghosts that become weaker, or just my opinion might change over time. However, I think this is going to be a nice fun thing to do, and I hope you join me. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. But let's not waste any more time, and let's hop into the first ghost. We're also going to be voting here in chat, by the way. People down here can vote. I think I mean, it's gonna be my tier list, so I'm gonna decide where the ghosts will go eventually. But they will have the ability to chime in on what they think. All right, let's start with the first one, a Banshee. I'm just gonna go. I don't know. We'll go in some kind of order. I think this is alphabetically, I think so. All right, we're gonna do where's the Banshee gonna go? Okay, so the Banshee used to be very scary because it could early hunt at any sanity, but they took that away. They took it away and gave it to the next ghost in the list, the Demon. Now the Banshee is left a shell of its former self. It can basically, it just has the weaknesses that it used to have to balance it out, and it has none of the strengths. It's literally terrible. It's like actively nerfing itself. It cannot early hunt anymore. It still only targets one person, which is awful in multiplayer because there's 4 people around and only one of those can die unless you're playing a Nightmare, in which case it could kind of chain kill, but very limited compared to other ghosts. And it is affected by a much larger range when it comes to crucifixes. So there's, like, if you took everything the Banshee does away and just have a bland ghost, that will be much stronger than what the Banshee is now. I think this ghost is actively nerfing itself. This is like probably one of the worst ghosts in the game, period. Like, this, if B is average tier, C is like, oh, this ghost is slightly weaker than average. This ghost is literally like absolute bottom of the barrel tier. There is no way this goes any higher than D tier. I really hope they do something with this ghost because it is just so incredibly weak as of now. Like, it just doesn't do anything. People are actually voting for C tier over on Twitch here. We have 67% for C tier. I have no idea what ghost would even go in D tier if Banshee is not D tier. Like, what does the Banshee even do? It also has the additional hidden ability where it makes a special paramic noise, and you can like instantly detect it with that, even though it doesn't do that too often, so it's not really factoring into like you can't really figure the Banshee out super quickly with that. But besides that, the Banshee just actively nerfs itself. Shade, I think Banshee is like literal Shade level of badness. If you put I can't. This is absolute D tier. I don't. Okay, so chat voted for it going into C tier. I think this ghost desperately needs some kind of change to it. I think they really should add some like extra strength to this, because the strength right now in the book is like, it only targets one person. That's not a strength, that's an active weakness. So yeah, I'm gonna go with D tier there. Let me know what you think. Demon! We have complete polar opposites right here, because the Demon is insane. The Demon is like one of the strongest ghosts in the game. They took the Banshee early hunting ability and gave it to the Demon. Even before they did that, the Demon was already strong because it could hunt at 70% sanity, which is extremely early. That's like 2 ghost events and you can already get hunted. If you're playing in multiplayer, there's basically no way to escape the chain hunts of a Demon because you just only have 4 pills spread out over 4 different people, so you can never really escape that 70% average. So you're just going to be chain hunted good constantly throughout the whole mission, and it's just gonna turn into a nightmare. It is one of the strongest ghosts in the game. I think I'm gonna put, I think we should do 1 minute polls, by the way, because I kind of want to go through this a little bit more quickly. There's 21 ghosts to go through. I don't want to stick around on every ghost for super long. And I also have made a very in-depth ghost guide recently. If you're interested in knowing every little detail about the ghosts in this game, you can watch the ghost guide that I made. I'll link that in the top right over here. And that will literally include everything that I have learned over the 1,500 hours that I've played this game. Yeah, I think Demon is S tier without it having a hunting ability that makes it stronger during a hunt. I think every ghost is now pretty lethal during a hunt because they have given them a lot of passive speed up. Every ghost, if it sees the player for a period of time during a hunt, will speed up to the point where it will be faster than you are when you're sprinting. It will basically slowly turn into Revenant speed over time. So you can't just loop ghosts anymore. You can't get away from them all that easily, which makes the ability to early hunt so much stronger than it used to be. It used to be pretty good, but if you didn't have some kind of ability to also kill the player, it wouldn't be all that strong. But now with the cursed hunts that are only a 1 second grace period, and just the speed up over time, early hunting has become so much more powerful. So I'm gonna actually put Demon in S tier, and people over here also agreed. 78% voting for S tier and 21% voting for A tier. I think Demon is a certified S tier, one of the best ghosts in the game, period. Next one, Goryo. We have a Goryo, which I think is actually kind of an interesting ghost. I'm going to leave it here in B tier because I'm dragging it along. I think the Goryo is kind of an interesting ghost because it doesn't have anything to make it stronger during a hunt. It doesn't have early hunting. It doesn't have any special hunting abilities, but it is one of the hardest to detect ghosts. So this is where that part of the balancing comes in, where I think that if a ghost is very difficult to identify what ghost type it is, it can also be somewhat strong. And I think the Goryo is a perfect example. It doesn't have any abilities to make it hunt better, but it will allow the quest to continue for quite a long time. Because if you're unfamiliar, the Goryo has the ability to make dots very hard to get. It has dots as an evidence, and you can only detect the Goryo dots by looking through a camera, and it only shows it through the camera if there's no one in the room. This can be especially tricky when you're playing by yourself because you have no one to check with, no one to double check with. If they saw the dots and you saw them in the truck, then you know, oh wait, it's a Goryo. So this can be somewhat tricky, and a lot of the time, especially on Nightmare mode, you'll be grasping for evidence. You have nothing. Why are we not getting any evidence? When that happens, I usually go, wait a minute, we might be dealing with a Goryo, but that leads on for pretty long, and by that point you can already get hunted. You're already down to 50%. You can get hunted, and because every ghost is now much stronger during a hunt, I think the Goryo is actually a pretty significant danger sometimes, especially to newer players. I think this is one of the newer player killers because dots is just such a hard evidence to get, and I think it's a perfect first pick for our middle mode. I think it's actually going to stay in B tier. People in chat also seem to agree. They 62% voted for it going in B tier, and I think it belongs there. I think it is so B tier is average. It makes itself kind of hard to detect, but it doesn't have anything to make it more dangerous during a hunt. So if you're prepared, you can get away from it and hide pretty easily. But yeah, I think that's where the Goryo belongs. Let's move on to the next one. Hantu, also a ghost that has had some significant changes recently. Hantu is now kind of a laughingstock of faster ghosts. It used to be that it had the ability, or it still has the ability to be faster when it's cold and slower when it's warm. However, that used to be a little extra. It used to be the case that the Hantu would also speed up passively during the hunt. So if you were spotted by a Hantu, it would increase its speed over time. And if it was also cold on top of that, you would be hunted down and ran down by the Hantu very quickly. However, they've taken that away. Now the Hantu will only base its speed on the temperature of the house. So if you turn on the breaker, the Hantu is literally maybe not slower than a Revenant when it's not chasing a player, but it's one of these, it's the second slowest ghost in the game. And the thing is that this ghost doesn't speed up when it sees you, so you can literally loop it. And even if you turn off the breaker, the speed of the Hantu is really not that impressive. It's still not as fast as any other ghost will be after like a few seconds of chasing. So I really think this ghost needs some kind of buff. I think right now they have made it super easy to outrun. Basically, you will always turn on the breaker, so it will always be warm enough for this ghost to be literally like crawling through the house, and you can always just run away from it. I think this ghost is worse than terrible. It is gonna go in D tier together with Banshee. If they change the numbers, they tweak them a little bit, they make the ghosts, or they make this ghost like much more dangerous when it's cold, then it can work. Then it can work in like a C or maybe B tier. It could, like, this ghost, the description of its ability could literally land it anywhere. It could literally land it anywhere. However, the implementation that they have chosen has made it just absolutely terrible. You can always outrun a Hantu. There's barely ever a moment where you will be outsped by it, because it won't increase its speed, and it will just always be warm enough. Because unless you're dealing with like snow or heavy rain weather, it will almost never be fast enough to get you. And then besides that, it has the little tell that if you're in a freezing room, it'll like do freezing breath, which kind of makes it somewhat easier to detect, but that is barely relevant. The easiest way to detect this ghost is just try to loop it around a like object, and if you can do that, then boy, you got a Hantu and it's easy peasy. So yeah, I think Hantu is terrible. I actually missed what chat said. What did chat vote for here? Discord announcement? Oopsie. What did chat vote for? C tier? Really? I don't think we can put it in C tier. I think this ghost is much worse than that. I like C tier I reserve for ghosts that are like slightly weaker than average. They have something that makes them slightly weaker, but it doesn't like actively nerf them into the ground. Whereas this ghost is basically always just a complete laughing stock of all ghosts. I think it has to stay in D tier in my opinion. Now, if they change the numbers, it could be C, B, or A even. Maybe not. I don't think it could be S tier, depending on, well, maybe if they buff it like crazy. But yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it in D tier personally. I've been laughing at this ghost for the last like week. It's so much fun to go against, but it's just very bad. All right, next ghost, a very solid contender for the top ranks of the list. We have ourselves the Jinn. The Jinn is a very scary ghost, and a lot of people find this ghost terrifying. Basically, what the Jinn does is, if the breaker is on, it'll be very fast when far away from the player, and it will slow down when it gets close to you. However, because of the change where the ghosts speed up over time, the Jinn will, after it has kind of slowed down and gotten close to you, it will still speed up as the longer it chases you, which will make it a very dangerous ghost, because it'll close the distance on you, and even if you try to break line of sight, it'll still be close to you, because unlike the Revenant, which is down here, unlike the Revenant, this ghost doesn't slow down when you break line of sight. It'll still be a normal ghost. Even if you hid right away in like a room somewhere, it could still randomly stumble upon you, because it is gonna explore the house at a normal rate. So I think it makes this ghost pretty scary. Now, the obvious very big weakness of this ghost is you can just turn off the breaker and then it doesn't have anything. It can't, it's not faster at all. So that's a big weakness, but turning off the breaker is actually something you don't really want. It turns, like, you can't turn on any lights anymore, so you can't preserve your sanity. The temperatures will all fall down, so it becomes hard to, like, detect where the ghost room is with a thermometer. It really makes the game harder if you have to turn off the breaker, so I think that is actually a very interesting thing. On top of that, the Jinn has something incredibly strong. It can't early hunt by itself. However, it has a hidden ability that it can drop your sanity if you're close to it by 25%. This is twice as good as the Yurei's ability, and you can't even know when it happened. It's actually crazy good. It basically turns the Jinn into a pretty consistent early hunter. Like, I think the Jinn is, like, every single change that they have done over the last, over the recent history of Phasmo has really improved the Jinn. I don't think it's S tier. It's a strong contender for S tier. I absolutely could see people say S tier, but I don't think I can put it there. I think S tier has to be reserved for, like the top of the line ghost, but there is no way this goes anywhere below A tier. It is a very strong ghost that can often early hunt. So on some maps, it's weaker than other maps. I do agree with that. It also doesn't turn off the breaker ever to complement its power, which can be really nice if you want to keep your sanity high. You can turn on all the lights around the ghost, and then the ghost will never turn off the breaker, so you'll always keep your sanity high, which it then kind of has to do its ability to even be able to hunt in the first place. But yeah, I think Jinn is a strong A. Could see people putting it S tier. I can absolutely not see anyone put this B tier. This has to be A or higher, but I think it's A tier in my opinion. All right, moving on. And Chad agreed, by the way. Chad also said A tier, and I absolutely agree. I'm not sorry. I was just here. There you go. I'm live in the Discord now. Okay, we have Mare. Let's actually do a 2-minute poll. I think we can always cancel them early, but then they don't end up too short. Let's do a 2-minute poll actually. Okay, so a Mare. Where does the Mare go? Mare, if you don't know, has the ability to early hunt. However, it also has the ability to late hunt. Basically, if you turn on the lights in the room where the Mare is, it'll be able to hunt it, or it will not be able to hunt until you're at 40% sanity. However, if the lights are off, it'll be able to early hunt at 60% sanity. This is actually, like, I think this is fairly balanced. It's an interesting concept where if you turn on lights, you can be very safe, but if you turn off the lights, or if the ghost turns off the lights, because it can do that, and it can also explode the lights, which this ghost tends to do a little bit more often. It can explode the lights, so you cannot turn on any light anymore in that room. This can turn it into an early hunting ghost that can be quite a dangerous one, but it is balanced out by the fact that it can late hunt if you do turn on the lights. So if you balance it correctly, you can stay safe for a longer time, and it also has a few pretty easy tells. It can never turn on a light. So if you ever see a ghost turn on the light, you immediately know, okay, it is not a Mare, which can be like a really nice way to rule this one out. It's a nice trick to know. And they've recently given it another trick with lights, where if you turn on the light, there's a small chance that the Mare will immediately turn that light off. And currently you can kind of cheese or exploit that by just flicking the light switch a ton. And if you do that, then eventually the ghost will decide to use its ability, and you can basically instantly detect the Mare. Now, I'm not gonna knock it off too hard for that, because as easy as that makes it, like, you could literally detect a Mare instantly every time. I don't think this is intended, and I'm pretty sure they will remove this soon. I could see this almost landing it in C tier, honestly, because if you can instantly detect a ghost, like, it's kind of a laughing stock. But I'm still gonna go with just a middle mode B tier. It has an early hunting, but it's balanced out by a late hunting. If you do turn on the lights, it can never turn on a light, so that's a nice way to tell it apart. So yeah, I think it's just a cool ghost, just a B tier. Everyone, 69% seems to agree with me in the chat here. They're voting as well. 69% voted for Mare, also going in B tier, and I think that's where it belongs. What was the rest? C tier, 24%, and A tier, 7%. Yeah, I don't think this can go above B tier. I don't think it can. It could be C tier if you heavily factor in the light switch thing, where you can just spam the light switch and instantly know that it's a Mare. But I don't think it's intended, and it's a kind of niche thing to know, and it's a bit cheesy. But yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna land it in B tier for that somewhat strong early hunting ghost, but just kind of average, which is kind of special for it's an early hunting ghost, but not strong enough to go into A tier or something. Mimic. Here we go. We got a very interesting ghost here. Now, I'm kind of doing this ghost a little too early because we haven't seen a lot of the strong ghosts yet, but the Mimic can be anything. The Mimic can turn into literally every other ghost, which makes them very dangerous. There's no way that this ghost will ever go below B tier, because B, as I said, is average. So it will be B or higher because it'll be the average ghost, so it is already automatically B tier. But I think it elevates beyond that, because there is quite a few ghosts that are very, very strong and very dangerous that you have to kind of prepare against. The fact that the Mimic can turn into any one of those makes it very strong. Like, the Mimic can decide to early hunt by being a demon or a Raiju or any other ghost that can early hunt. It can decide to be fast by being a Raiju, a Revenant, Jinn, etc. it just can do all these things. So you have to kind of be prepared for everything. Like, you can never feel safe against a mimic, because if you're just chilling in the ghost room with a photo cam trying to get a ghost photo, you might just get early hunted, or you might just get hunted and then be just ran down by a mega fast Raiju, and there's like nothing you can do. So you kind of always need to have those preparations where you have like crucifixes down, and you have you have like smudge sticks around to make the ghost to save yourself during a hunt, which I think makes this very strong. If you're not prepared for this ghost, it could just decide to kill you, which I think is very strong. I don't think it's strong enough to go in S tier, because the S tier at the end of this, I think, is going to be pretty there's only going to be a very limited amount of ghosts that deserve S tier, in my opinion, but I don't think it goes below A tier either. I think this is just a solid A tier. The fact that it could be S tier sometimes, but it just depends on what it becomes, because it could also be just like shitty ghosts, right? There's more shitty ghosts than there are really, really strong ghosts. So on average, this ghost will will not do much. And then you also have the other things, is that it gives orbs, right? It gives orbs on top of its usual 3 evidences, which makes it kind of easy to detect, especially on nightmare mode, which can actually nerf it quite a lot, because you can instantly detect it on nightmare mode. Basically, this ghost just is no threat on nightmare mode, which is obviously the highest difficulty. And then even on professional, getting 4 evidences can be pretty easy, and then you're just like, wait a minute, okay, so we have the mimic, so we're gonna leave now because we don't want to die. I could say this S tier, and people seem to very unanimously say that it is S tier. 71% of people vote S tier here, which I think is a little bit too high. I don't think because S tier, like, you can just put the ghost that can become any ghost in S tier, and then only have 2 or 3 other ghosts in S tier, because there's just so many stinky ghosts. Like, this ghost could be a Banshee and a Hantu and, I don't know, Spirit, Shade, Yurei, all kinds of garbage ghosts. It could be for like the whole mission, and then you have to not worry about it at all. I think it could be S tier. A lot of the missions, it can be S tier, but I think also a lot of the missions, it can be C tier. So I have to kind of average it out and put it in A tier. I can't, like, the fact that it could sometimes be super, super bad, I can't put it in S tier because of that. So yeah, I'm going to go with S tier, chat set, or A tier, chat set S tier. I would love to know what you think about the Mimic. I think it's a very interesting ghost. It's just the high variance on its ability. This is a tier list for just difficulty. I guess it's mostly based on how likely are you to die against this ghost, or how dangerous is it to go against, CJ. But sometimes, like, so that includes things such as, is it hard to investigate? Like, is it hard to find the evidences for this ghost? Is it dangerous in terms of, like, having a very strong hunt power? Or can it early hunt, stuff like that? B for killing, S for gameplay. I don't think the Mimic is... I think I kind of would put that the other way around. I think it might be S for killing, but B for gameplay. Because it's like, the orbs are just really easy to detect, right? The fact that you can get 4 evidences and it immediately tells you what it is. I don't know. It's an interesting one to talk about. I think I'm going to land in the middle of A tier. Yeah, it does lead to that, like, oh, it could be a Mimic kind of deal, but that kind of buffs every other ghost around it and not just a Mimic, right? All right, I think we've talked about the Mimic long enough. It's a controversial ghost, but I'm going to leave it in A tier for now. Let's move on to the next one. We have a Myling, an interesting ghost. I like the Myling a lot. I've recently been scared quite a bit by the Myling. The Myling ability basically makes it very quiet during a hunt. Now, this only affects the footsteps. It doesn't affect the singing. However, there's a lot of like noises that the ghost can make during a hunt that are very quiet. Especially on the larger maps, you can sometimes be dealing with a Myling and it could literally be like right next to you or like very close to you, and you won't even hear a thing. On small maps too, you could literally hear your friends dying left and right to you, and you won't even know where the ghost is. I think this ghost is terrifying. It's a very, very fun ghost. I like it a lot. Like, I have gained a lot of respect for the Myling in recent history because I've been scared so much by them. Like, I've been playing multiplayer and then people just die and I don't even know where the ghost is. Like, it's very cool. But that's it. It's just a little bit harder to hear, but that also gives it away. So if you are very vigilant and very observant, then it will only really get one hunt out of you, right? Because if you know immediately, oh, this is a Myling, and there's also ways to tell, right, where you drop your flashlight, and then if you see it blink before you hear the footsteps, you go like, okay, this is a Myling, easy peasy. So it is fairly easy to detect, but it can be very scary, but it's not faster. It can't early hunt. I think it is, there's literally no way I can put this above a B tier, but it is a B tier for me. It is a scary ghost that can catch you off guard during a hunt. It can bamboozle you, but it doesn't do anything else. And that's it. It does have another weakness where it makes more, or it has a weakness where it makes paranormal sounds more often, but that is so irrelevant. Like, even if you use the paramic a ton, you'll get a few more noises, but that could just be random. Like, it barely ever matters, and you're not going to use that to go like, oh, this is a Myling because I had sounds on the paramic. No, any ghost can do that. So that's not a very strong, it's not a very weak weakness. Which I think just lands it in a solid B tier. How do people in chat think about this? Also B tier. 64% voting B tier. I think that's a very solid choice. Scary ghost, but not doing anything special in terms of early hunting and dangerous hunting. Cool, though. Cool. All right, next one. Obake. Obake sounds very scary. If you read the journal, you go like, holy shit, this is gonna be the most insane ghost ever. It's gonna have all kinds of crazy shape-shifting abilities. It's gonna turn into my friend. It's gonna stand behind me. It's gonna say, wah, and then I die. None of that. The Obake doesn't do any of that. The only thing that the Obake does is that it has a special fingerprint that it can leave behind, and it doesn't leave fingerprints as often as other ghosts. Both of these things will make it easier to detect it. Because if you get a ghost to touch a door and it doesn't leave fingerprints, and the next time it touches the door, it does leave fingerprints, there's literally only two options. It could either be an Obake, or it could be a mimic being an Obake. So it is down to literally two options, one being a lot more likely, the fact that it's an Obake. And then the other one, where it has the special fingerprint, that also immediately gives it away that it's either a mimic being an Obake or an Obake itself. So all its strength and its weakness literally gives itself away. It doesn't have any early hunting. It doesn't have any more dangerous hunting. And on Nightmare mode, you will always have fingerprints as your evidence, which makes it always easy to detect. So even on Nightmare mode, it doesn't like try to evade its weaknesses by not picking fingerprints. So it's literally always easy to detect. I think this is another D tier. This is literally worse than having nothing. I think it's still a fun ghost, and I like that there's difference in the ghosts, but just on paper and like describing its abilities, it's worse than useless. It gives itself away with everything that it does, and it just will be very easy to detect, and it doesn't do anything special to drain your sanity or get an early hunt in or be a more dangerous hunting ghost. So I'm gonna go with D tier here. Sorry, what do people think? Okay, C tier. People seem to like kind of go easy on the ghosts. I go hard. If a ghost sucks, I mean, I still like them. Like, I love the Hantu. I think Banshee needs a rework right now. So the Banshee is kind of just a bit of a shitty ghost, but it's kind of in a hard spot right now. I think they're gonna change something with the Banshee. Hantu is a really fun ghost. I really like the Obake. I love the fingerprints, and I like the fact that the mimic can be an Obake, which can kind of throw it off a little bit. But like, it sucks. It's just a shit ghost. So I'm gonna, yeah, it's better. I guess it's better than, I guess we'll put them in order a little bit. I don't know if I'm gonna really keep going with that, but like, it's definitely better than the Banshee. Banshee is just actively nerfing itself. Banshee is definitely the worst ghost here, but I can't put this C tier. Like, C tier implies that it can still do something, but it has like a very strong weakness to make it fall below B tier. I think it's a D tier. But just 77% seem to think C tier. What do you think? Do you agree with me or with chat? Let's move on to the next one. We got ourselves an Oni, probably my favorite ghost in the game right now. I absolutely love Onis. They have been changed to make them a lot more active. They are now like the most active ghost in the game almost all the time. It used to be the case before they made the change that the Oni would just not feel any special. It would just be a blank ghost that would sometimes be a shade, sometimes be a bit more active, but most of the time just a run-of-the-mill, just very basic ghost. Now that's no longer the case. It does so many ghost events, and ghost events drain your sanity. So in a way, the Oni can actually early hunt sometimes, but very obviously, right? It's not like the Jinn where it just sneakily eats away at your sanity, and then all of a sudden it goes, rah, I'm hunting. No, the Oni will scream in your face, I'm lowering your sanity right now. Be careful, you're gonna get hunted. So like, it's very easy to know that you're losing your sanity, and that you need to take a pill or you need to get a smudge stick or something like that, so it won't just sneak up on you, right? It's definitely an S tier when it comes to content. Absolutely. I've been making so many videos about Onis recently because they're like the most fun ghosts to go against. They're very scary. So I can see them be higher on the list for someone who's like scared by ghosts and like gets, if a ghost does like ghost events, it's very scary to them. I can absolutely see that. But it doesn't really do anything special. So it can early hunt sometimes because it does a lot of ghost events, but it's not faster during a hunt. It's not more dangerous during a hunt. It's not early hunting on like most of the time, unless it does a bunch of ghost events, but then you know that it's gonna do that. So it doesn't surprise you really. And it is also so active that you will basically immediately know that you're dealing with an Oni. Besides that, it has a few interesting things. It can throw objects with a lot more force, which you can sometimes detect, but this barely ever matters. You won't really see this this often. And it does a few other things. One of them being very interesting, that it can never do the hiss, the like airball fly towards you and then make a ha noise ghost event. It can never do that one. So if you see that one, you immediately know, oh wait, I'm not dealing with an Oni. So that's an interesting thing. I see you guys are putting this in A tier. You guys, 61% of people voted on A tier. I don't think I can put it in A tier. As much as I love the Oni, like, it just doesn't do anything special. I think it has to be B tier. I love my boy. I love my boy, but again, I'm doing this as objective as I can. I'm gonna go with B tier here because it's definitely... I think that it does deserve B tier because it can early hunt quite often, but it's also very obvious a lot of the time that it is an Oni and that you have to take pills, you have to prepare for that hunt, so it's not really going to surprise you. But I don't think this was C tier. I think this has to be B tier. I'm going to go with B tier for this one. People said A tier, but I think that's a lot of emotional, like emotion speaking. I would also put this definitely S tier in terms of fun, but B tier in terms of strength. All right, let's move on to the next one. We got ourselves Onryo. Onryo is a very interesting ghost. Actually, a pretty strong one. It has an early hunting ability. Two, actually. It can early hunt when it blows out a candle. This, however, tends to be very rare early on. It's very rare. It becomes a lot stronger when the Onryo has already killed players. If it kills a player, the chance for it to then hunt after it blows out a candle goes up drastically. After it kills 2 players, the ghost will always hunt if it blows out a candle. But it's not really that relevant most of the time. I also play a lot solo, so this is going to be somewhat skewed towards a solo perspective. In a solo perspective, you can often prevent hunts with the candles rather than them causing the hunts in the first place. Also, if you have multiple candles around, it will cancel the early hunting, and it will work as crucifixes against the Onryo. So if you shower, like if you place all of your candles in the ghost room, it will be permanently disabled. It can't hunt anymore, but you do have to set this up, right? You have to keep them lit, and you run the risk of the ghost stepping out of the room and then hunting from somewhere else. Because on like the okay, wait, reset. I'm struggling with the words. The Onryo also has another early hunting ability where it can hunt at 60% sanity if there's no candles nearby. So it's basically a Mare, but instead of lights, it's with candles. But unlike the Mare, where it will hunt at 40% sanity if there's candles near, or if there's light nearby, this ghost will never hunt if you like place your candles properly. So it does nerf it quite a lot, but you won't really bring in candles. Barely anyone, at least in my experience, brings in candles like regularly. They only do it when they see it could be an Onryo, which can be a weakness, but you do have to, like, get there, right? You have to detect, oh, wait, this is an Onryo, I'm gonna bring in candles, which I don't think is that much of a nerf. I think lights with the Mare are a lot stronger of a weakness than the Onryo's weakness to candles, because, first of all, if you bring only one candle, the ghost can blow it out and hunt anyways, and you don't do that all too often. So I think this is pretty usually an early hunting ghost, unless you really prepared for it, or you're like doing a no evidence run and you're like doing everything you can to detect what ghost it could be. So I think this pretty much goes in the middle mode, where it's like an early hunting ghost most of the time, but it can also be heavily countered if you plan around it. So it can be countered to be a complete D tier ghost, but most of the time it will be B or like it will be higher because you won't be actively countering it, because why would you? Why would you just bring in all the candles all of a sudden, run back and forth to the truck a bunch of times to like and then it turns up not being an Onryo and you wasted a bunch of time. So yeah, I think it's pretty strong. Just goes average. Chat seems to agree. It's actually pretty divisive here. C tier, 34% C tier, and B tier is 47%. So still the majority voting for B tier. I think it's a B tier ghost. I've often been early hunted against Onryo, because just candles don't really play that big of a role most of the time. So yeah, I'm gonna go with B tier, but you can absolutely just destroy this ghost if you plan for it, which I think is a fun mechanic. I really like the Onryo. I think it's a really interesting ghost. Next one, we have ourselves the Phantom. Now here I might actually make some people angry with where I'm gonna put this ghost. I think the Phantom is really not that strong. I think the Phantom basically has quite a few abilities. It will disappear when you take a photo, which can be an instant giveaway. If it does a ghost event, which it sometimes doesn't do, but if you have like one of the cursed items that can force a ghost event, such as the tarot card sometimes, the summoning circle, the music box, all of these can force a ghost event and will instantly tell you, literally at the very beginning of the match, that you were dealing with a Phantom, get the heck out of there, or just take your money and leave, right? It'll instantly give it away, which can be a big weakness, but you do need to take that risk of using the cursed item, or you need to be lucky with a ghost event. On top of that, during a hunt, it will also give itself away, because it will be slow blinking, whereas every other ghost will blink pretty frequently. This ghost will blink so much less than the other ghosts. It will like be at least 1 second between every blink. So if you just look at the ghost for a little bit during a hunt, have a smudge stick ready to like get out of there, you'll instantly know that you're dealing with a Phantom and you're done with the like getting evidence for the mission. You don't even need to do that. You can figure out this ghost without ever using an evidence item. Now it does have some things going for it. The slow blinking can be a strength. If you don't know where the ghost is coming from, or you're trying to loop it for some reason, which will always get you killed anyway, it could like sneak up on you by blinking very slowly, so that can sometimes be a strength, but I still think it's like an overall weakness. And then the main strength, like the main actual strength of this ghost, is that it has a hidden ability where it can decide to roam to any player on the map. It can decide to walk to that player and like go roam from that new location. It can do hunts from there. It can do ghost events from there. It can be very confusing. Like it goes all over the map, and you're like, "What the heck is going on here?" That can also be a giveaway, right? But I think it's more of a strength, absolutely, than it's like an overall giveaway. It can definitely throw off a lot of missions, but it kind of has to do it multiple times for it to be really strong. Sometimes you have that. Sometimes you have a Phantom that roams back and forth and like completely throws you off and makes it very confusing to like deal with. So it can be pretty strong. But I think overall, this is gonna be my first C tier. I think it is better than like shit. It does some things to make it better, but it doesn't deserve to be alongside these ghosts that like mostly buff themselves and don't really have any major weaknesses. Like it does give itself away sometimes, but half of that can also be a strength. The like slow blinking and the hidden ability can actually make the quests really, really difficult. So I'm gonna go with C tier, and I was also already kind of giving that away that I was gonna put it in C tier, so I hope I didn't influence the vote all too much, but 70% voted here for C tier as well. I would love to know what you think about the Phantom. I know some people think this is like a very, very dangerous ghost, but I just don't see it. All right, Poltergeist. I think I might also make some people mad with where I put this one. The Poltergeist is a really fun ghost. I really, really like the Poltergeist. They have also... the Poltergeist is the throwing ghost, in case you're unfamiliar. It throws a bunch of stuff. It can throw multiple items at once. It can throw them forcefully, which will, like, make them go super far, similar to the Oni. But it can be very quiet if the room is empty, which can sometimes be a strength. Like you might be thinking that it's a shade because it's not doing anything, and then you go, wait a minute, but this room is completely empty. We need to put in some items. But it can give itself away immediately if it does a multi-throw, especially if you're playing on professional or lower. If you think you heard multiple items and you go to the truck and you see a big 10 spike, you know, oh, wait a minute, it just did a polter throw, instant giveaway. That can be very easy. if it throws multiple items, it will drop your sanity a little bit, which can matter a tiny bit. It barely ever early hunts because of that. You won't really notice it, but it's a little bit of a strength. But most of its stuff just gives itself away. It doesn't have anything to help it during hunts. It doesn't early hunt unless it really goes ham on the multi-throws, but it also gives itself away anyway, right? So I think this ghost does some fun things. It has a little bit of a sanity drain sometimes. It can be kind of spooky, but like this is a case where I think I'm actually, like, I could see this be D tier, but I'm actually personally gonna put this C tier because of the sanity drain ability, because of it sometimes becoming a shade when there's no items in the room. Like, it can throw you off a little bit. They have also recently changed it to where it throws even more items than it used to. Like, they have really honed in on the Polter being the throwing ghost. So yeah, I'm gonna go with C tier. It's worse than most of the ghosts, but I guess it's a little hard to like objectively state why it wouldn't be D tier. I just think that sanity drain can sometimes matter a little bit, and it won't really often do the multi-throw, so it just becomes kind of like a very active ghost that can drain your sanity a little bit here and there. So yeah, a lot of people agreed with the C tier, 64%, and then D tier was 19%, and B tier was 13%. Yeah, I absolutely don't see a way this could be B tier. I do see a way this could be C tier. I think this is somewhere in the middle here, but I'm gonna land it in C tier. It could be D. It could be D, though, but I would love to hear what you think as well. Here we go. We got the next ghost. It is Raiju. The king of all ghosts at the moment, in my opinion. Raiju is the strongest ghost in the game, and I don't think there is any way you could disagree. There is some other ghosts that are very strong. You have the Revenant, you have the Jinn. These ghosts are fast. They're very fast. If you're being chased by these guys, you'll not have a long story to tell, because you're gonna go down very quickly. Like, you need to get away from them. And you have other types of strong ghosts. It's just the demon and the yokai. These ghosts can hunt very early, can throw you off completely. And then you have the Raiju. The Raiju is the best of both worlds with literally no downside. This ghost is absolutely overpowered. It is insane. It is like a tier on its own. This ghost is fast when there's electronic items around. Now, you would think that might not always apply, but it absolutely basically always applies. You carry a flashlight, so you already make the ghost faster, and the hunt starts in the ghost room, which the ghost room will always be covered in electronic items. This ghost also has a bunch of evidence that requires electronic items. It has dots, EMF, and it has ghost orbs, if I remember correctly, which means you place a camera in the room, you place a dot sensor in the room, and all these things will make the ghost faster as well. So it'll be just rushing out of that ghost room, ready to get you. And on top of that, whereas every other fast ghost, such as the Jinn and the Revenant, won't speed up anymore after you break line of sight, the Raiju can still be like the second fastest ghost in the game. That is what it is. It's the second fastest ghost in the game. It can still be that fast even when it's not chasing you. That's insane. It could be catching up to where it last saw you at max speed, and then use your flashlight to cover the last bit of distance, and you're just down before you know it. It is insane. I think this ghost is crazy. It's absolute S tier. Strongest ghost in the game. It's going to go right before Demon. It's such a cool ghost. I really love this one. It's a nice one. It's just a nice ghost to have in the game. One of those like boogeyman. You need to be scared for this ghost. You're gonna be like fearing for your life all the time. Very cool ghost. Really like it. It doesn't become weaker when you turn off the breaker. It doesn't have any way to counter it, really. If you have a photo cam in the room, it's laying on the floor, boom, the ghost is faster. There's basically no way to counter this ghost. And it's just... Oh, and also, did I already forget? Did I not even say that it early hunts as well? It hunts at 65% sanity. Better than Onryo, better than Mare. It hunts 65. This is insane. Like, this ghost is so crazy. It's nuts. So yeah, it hunts at 65% sanity when there are electronical items nearby, which, as I said, will almost always be the case. So yeah, very strong ghost. Can early hunt and be extra fast. Just the best of both worlds. Absolutely, hands down, best ghost in the game. Now here we go. And by the way, chat completely agreed. 92% voted on S tier and 6% on A tier. And then a few memers voted D tier. Okay. Next ghost. We got ourselves the Old King. Then we just had the New King, which is the Raiju. Now we have the Old King. Revenant used to be the strongest ghost in the game. This was back before there was sprinting in the game. You couldn't get away from ghosts as easily. You wouldn't be able to, like, break line of sight, get away from it. Back when the other ghost didn't speed up. This was literally the only ghost that could kill you because you could just loop every other ghost. This was the only ghost that could kill you when you tried to do that. But all these changes have been made. The ghosts now all speed up as they see you for a longer period during the hunt. So basically every ghost will eventually get you. So it doesn't really have a monopoly on that anymore. And the main weakness of this ghost is just such a big deficit. With the addition of sprinting, you can now easily break line of sight. And as soon as you break line of sight against a Revenant, it'll be the absolute slowest ghost in the game. It'll be crawling at a snail's pace. It won't be able to get you. And the weirdest part to me is that if you, like, broke line of sight, it'll instantly go slow. What I would love to see as a buff to the Revenant is that it'll be fast when it goes to your last known location. It'll be fast when it hears you. And it'll be fast when it detects your equipment. I think these three changes could be a really fun way to bring the Revenant a bit back in terms of, like, the scariest ghost, like, among the scariest ghosts. Right now, it's still scary. Like, I'm just, like, trash talking the Revenant as if it's some kind of D tier ghost, which is absolutely not. This ghost is really, really strong. But, it's only really strong in some scenarios. It's not longer the, like, just like absolute menace that it used to be. Now it's only really strong on the larger maps where sometimes breaking line of sight can be very difficult. It can be very scary if you triggered cursed hunts, because cursed hunts cause the grace period, which is the time where you can run away, like the head start that you have on the ghost, to go down to 1 second. You only have a 1 second grace period. If you've done that against a Revenant, you will not be able to break line of sight as quickly, and then you'll just be, like, immediately murdered by a Revenant. Sometimes on Nightmare mode, it can, like, chain kill very effectively because it sprints at the... It's still the fastest ghost in the game, by the way. Like, it still has the maximum speed of every other ghost, but it just has that major weakness where it goes super slow. And the slowness is also an easy way to detect it, because if you hide from the Revenant, you can hear that it's slow, which will instantly give it away. That's also a big weakness. So I'm still gonna, maybe against better opinions, I'm still gonna go with A tier. It can absolutely no longer be S tier. Like, there is no way it could be S tier. I could see B tier, which I just cannot accept. Like, I guess I'm just a bit I'm just in the, like, what do you call it, the phase of grief where you, like, don't accept it, the non-acceptance phase, or whatever the fuck you call it. Denial phase. I'm in the denial phase of grief. I don't want to accept that this is any lower than A tier, but I can absolutely see it. I still think it's very scary in some situations. It can still catch you off guard. It's a very just absolutely awesome thing to see. It can buff the mimic sometimes, where you all of a sudden, you thought you were dealing with a very easy mimic. Oh, we're gonna just loop it around the Please Still Attic, and then the Revenant goes, like, it can still be scary. So I'm still gonna leave it in A tier. And chat also agreed with that, but it was pretty split. Like, it was only 50% voting Revenant in A tier. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there and just hope that they buff it. I really would love to see that buff that I just said, where they made the ghost faster when it detects your equipment, and, like, travels to your last known location and hears you. I think if it's still fast when those three things are the case, then it actually might climb up back to S tier, because then it is, like, the chase ghost. Like, you have to turn off your equipment, you have to be quiet instantly, you have to break line of sight as much as possible and get the fuck away. Like, that could be a really cool way to buff the Revenant back to somewhat of its old strength. Anyway, next one. We had just got some pretty scary ghosts. Now we're over at Shade level. Where are we gonna put the Shade? These Shade used to be absolute trash. And then they thought, what if we double down on this ghost? We're gonna make it even worse. The Shade now literally does almost nothing. You will pretty much every time
know that you're dealing with a shade. Like, whereas sometimes you have like a ghost that doesn't do much and you go like, is this a shade? But then you think like, wait a minute, it still did some things. If you actually find a shade, you'll know what it is to find a shade. Like, it doesn't do shit. It by the way, I literally had a shade yesterday that did nothing, and then after the end game stats, it showed like 70 interactions, and I went to the developers and was like, how is this possible? This is not a thing. This is impossible. And then DK explained that right now, there's actually a bug in the game with the end game stats. If the shade decides to do anything, or it stopped from doing anything because of like its shyness, it'll still count 1 to the end game stats. So even if it doesn't do anything, it'll still be ticking up the end game stat number. So it like it's just some super bullshit. Anyway, this doesn't really apply. I just found it a very interesting fact because I had some really weird shades that didn't do anything, and then the numbers in the end game stats will be like super high, and it was like, what is going on here? So that I just wanted to explain that. But yeah, the shade does barely anything. And it has an insane weakness where it only hunts at 35% average team sanity. This is massive. It will not do many ghost events, so it won't be dropping your sanity that way. And it will only hunt very late into the game. So if you just have a very long period where you're not being hunted, you're not getting ghost events, you're not getting activity, you like almost always know it's a shade. It is literally the epitome of D tier. It is like just the worst ghost in the game, probably. You might consider Hantu like one of the worst ghosts in the game as well, or Banshee. Like, there's you could like say that any of these is. Sometimes it could be a strength where if you don't like, if you're playing on a large map like a asylum and you have no idea where the shade is because it's not making any noise, that could be strong. Like, sometimes on larger maps it can be strong, but even on small maps you usually find the ghost. You can just turn on the breaker, use the thermo to find the ghost, and then you'll know like, okay, this is a shade, I'm bored, I'm gonna leave now. So yeah, I think shade is D tier. It is absolutely trash. 63% of people in chat agree with me. S tier 27% vote S tier. It seems like people were trolling because that is definitely not the case, you bunch of trolls. Anyway, I think this is a certified D tier. I know some people like think this ghost can be scary because it's so shy, but I don't think that works. There's a few other things that the shade does more often than other ghosts. It does the shadow model a lot during ghost events. And it does the airball hiss ghost event also more often than other ghosts do. And if you want to know more like little details like that about every ghost, I again made the ghost guide where I just talk about every single ghost for like 2 hours. Not 2 hours for every single ghost, but 2 hours combined, and just tell you everything I know. So if you want to know more, then there you go. Anyway, Spirit. Spirit doesn't have a strength. It only has a weakness. It is literally the blandest ghost imaginable. It doesn't early hunt. It doesn't do anything speedy during hunts. The only thing that it does is if you smudge it, it is pacified for a lot longer than usual. Whereas every other ghost will be disabled for 1.5 minutes, Spirit will be disabled for 3 minutes, so double the time. Which can be a really easy way to detect it. It doesn't do anything special. It's just super, super average. Now, you would say it's average, so it goes B tier, but that's not really how I've made this list. If you just nerf yourself and you don't do anything special, like, this is such a boring ghost. It's such a boring ghost to talk about. I think it's just D tier. It doesn't do anything. It's just a bland ghost model, and it nerfs itself on top of that. Like, you could say it's C tier because it's better than a shade, but we're just gonna shove it up the list here. Like somewhere here. I don't know, Obake, it's somewhere here. It's just, it doesn't do anything. It's not good. It doesn't early hunt, doesn't go faster. Just done. And what are people voting? D tier, 69%. Nicely done, guys. 69% voting Spirit D tier. I think that's about it. Let's end the poll because this is just the Spirit is done. Okay, next one. The twins. Very, very interesting ghosts. I really, really like the twins. The twins are very complex. There's basically 2 ghosts that you're dealing with. One that's the main ghost, and one that's the decoy ghost. The decoy ghost can do everything that the ghost can do. It can hunt, it can do ghost events, it can throw things, it can make you believe that the ghost is somewhere where it's actually not. But it doesn't give evidence. It doesn't give freezing temperatures in Spirit Box. It can give EMF 5, which can actually be
kind of good, because if it gives EMF 5, you might think, oh, we found the ghost, it gave us EMF 5, and then you go like tunnel vision on an area of the map where the ghost isn't even at, because you're dealing with the decoy. And it can hunt from there as well, which can make it hunt from directions you're not expecting. So it does have that surprise factor. It does have the delayed like investigation, because the decoy can make it hard to know where it is exactly. It can make the investigation take longer, which can lead to you getting hunted, and getting chain hunted, because you ran out of pills and now you're in the chain hunt territory. It has a somewhat interesting ability where the decoy is 110% of normal ghost speed, and the twin is 90% of normal ghost speed. However, this is like a nerf on average, because most of the time the real ghost will hunt, and it won't be the decoy that hunts. So most of the time you'll be dealing with a slightly slower ghosts than usual, which can actually make it a little bit weaker. Although if you do get that decoy hunt from a location you don't expect, and it's also a little faster, you really can get like chain killed and just can turn into a really quick disaster. Let me actually, yeah, I think I was just checking my notes where I put this one, because I do think that you could argue for it being A tier or B tier. I think you could say A tier because of the fact that it throws you off and it can sometimes hunt from different directions, but that's all it does. It doesn't have any early hunting abilities, really. It can make the investigation look longer, which can early hunt, but it does have the like twin interactions that give it away. Like the twin can sometimes be very obvious, which makes it be a quicker investigation, especially on nightmare mode, where you have to do some kind of like no evidence testing. So it could be either or. I think I am going to put it in B tier. I see people in chat said that it was A tier. I just don't think so. Like, it doesn't really do that much. Like, it's tricky to deal with. It can be surprising when you're like, oh wait, this was the decoy all along, what the heck? But it really isn't that special. Like, it doesn't early hunt, it doesn't hunt in a more dangerous way, but it's like the Goryo for me. It's like Goryo, where the only thing that it does is make itself harder to detect, but that's all it does. Like, I kind of reserve the S and A tier for stuff that's like dangerous when it comes to like you're gonna lose your life against these more often than not. Whereas B tier is still like strong ghost. Like, I'm reserving B tier for strong ghosts, but just the twins only really makes the quest a little harder, but it doesn't do much more than that. So I'm gonna leave it in B tier. I see you guys said A tier. Would love to know what you think. Do you agree with me or with chat? 29% said B tier and 64% said A tier. All right, we're reaching the end of it. We're at the last three. We got a Wraith. Wraith here, interesting ghost. Has mostly the strength of the Wraith is that it has a very cool hidden ability. It has a hidden ability where it can teleport to any player on the map and decide to like do ghost events there, do hunts there, and start roaming from there. So it can really be confusing when the ghost is like teleporting around the map. You don't know where the ghost room is. Like, what is going on here? This is such a weird ghost. But that's it. It only has that, and it has an insane weakness. The weakness of the Wraith is that it doesn't leave footprints when it steps in salt. This is like the most well-known thing, like the most well-known no evidence thing in the game. Like, everyone knows this. Everyone knows, oh, it might be a Wraith. Let's get salt in here. Oh, it didn't leave any footsteps. Boom, it's a Wraith. Like, it's just, as soon as you have Wraith be an option, you just take one pile of salt in there, you get those footsteps, and then you instantly know it's a Wraith. So the quest is significantly shorter when you're dealing with a Wraith. But it can be pretty scary. It can be pretty scary when it's teleporting around the map. Like, it's kind of, it depends on how it went. Like, if you were on top of the game and you got the investigation done really quickly, you can just leave and you're good. But if the ghost starts teleporting around and you get confused and you can't really do the salt because it's now on a different side of the map, and you're like, wait, I have just put all my salt in this one room and now you're somewhere else. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, that can actually kind of like bypass that it has this huge weakness if you place all your salt instantly, which I would never recommend anyway. So yeah, I think this is a C or B tier. I think you could say that it's C tier because the salt weakness is so huge, but the teleportation can really throw you off a lot. And it doesn't. It's so hard. It's so hard. I think this has to be B or C tier.
I would say C tier. My notes here say B tier, but the more I think of it, this goes like it's kind of like the Phantom, really. Like it has a really, really glaring flaw that instantly gives it away, and then it has somewhat of a fun strength. But the strength like doesn't even get it kills. Like it makes it confusing to deal with, but it doesn't buff it in terms of like actually killing the player. So I think I'm actually gonna agree with people in chat here. 71% says that it's C tier. I agree with that. B tier, 18%. I can see B tier. I originally placed it in B tier, but the more I think about it, I think it's better than this. It's like Wraith, Phantom, Polter, I would say here in this C tier for now. All right, 2 more ghosts to go. The next ghost, Yokai. Very, very strong ghosts. Like, similar to Demon in terms of early hunting potential. If you're unfamiliar with the Yokai can early hunt at 80% sanity if you're loud next to the ghost. This is the earliest hunt, except the Demon doing its, like, special ability. So the Yokai can be one of the earliest hunters in the game. And you're almost always loud. So if you're loud next to this ghost, it can early hunt, which you're always trying to make the ghost do things by yelling at it, by talking with the spirit box, which this ghost also has spirit box as evidence. Very cheeky, very cheeky. So it is almost always going to early hunt you. But you can counter it by being quiet, although being quiet is not that fun. So I tend to be loud even when I do have kind of an idea that it's a Yokai. I think that is very strong, but that is all it has. It can be like completely countered if you just don't talk, which is boring again, but you can do it as a way to not get hunted, and then it will only hunt at 50% sanity. It can give itself away by doing an early hunt, but I'm not really gonna count that because if you get hunted, you're in danger, so I'm not gonna count the fact that, oh wait, it early hunted, it must be a demon or a yokai. Like, that's not really a giveaway, that's just scary. And it has a pretty insignificant weakness. The weakness of the yokai is that it doesn't hear you that well during a hunt, which can be impactful, more impactful than you think probably, but not as impactful, like not super impactful. When it's chasing you, you can actually lose it a lot more easily than other ghosts. Like if you cut the corner, most ghosts will continue tracking you because you are like using your flashlight to know where you're going. The yokai won't do that because the yokai also doesn't hear your flashlight from far away. It has a closer range on audio and electronical equipment during hunts, so it counts for both of that. It's not just audio, which can make you lose it a lot quicker. So that can be sometimes a way to get away to get out of to get away from the yokai very quickly, but it doesn't really matter that much. It's not a faster ghost, so it won't be catching you very quickly during a hunt. It doesn't have like Revenant or Raiju or Jinn stuff, but the early hunting is really, really strong. However, I don't think it's demon level. I don't think the fact that the demon got the new ability where it can hunt at any sanity plus 70% default hunting ability means that even if you're across the map trying to get to the ghost room, you can just be continuously attacked over and over again. You'll never be able to reach the ghost room. That doesn't happen against a yokai. These like severe chain hunt situations don't occur when you're against a yokai because you have to be close to the ghost to trigger the early hunt. So it's much less scary when it comes to chain hunting. So I'm actually gonna put it in A tier. I know some people might say S tier here, but it's just a discount demon, kind of, a little bit. Even though it can hunt more quickly than the demon can, I don't think that it really deserves that S spot, but it is definitely A tier for me. Those early hunts are very, very significant. And wait, I didn't see it. I was looking, but I thought the vote was still about to continue. Where did people vote for this one? Was it 70% A tier? Okay, I agree. A tier is where I would put it this one again. Okay, so let's move on to the last ghost. Yurei. Yurei is kind of a shitty ghost. I really think Yurei could deserve some love. The Yurei has an ability where it can drop your sanity by 13% when it's near you, which is very little. That's like a ghost event. And recently they have made it the case that it gives itself away when it does that. If it does the ability, it'll close a door completely
next to you. Like, it'll close one door from fully open if you had it fully open, and it'll smack it closed and then make the shutting noise. So you can really easily detect this because it sounds very different from a normal door closing. A normal door touch will be like a small touch and it won't really fully close, or even if it fully closes, it'll immediately make the shutting noise. When the Yurei does it, it'll close the door, and then it'll be a short delay, and then you hear the shutting noise of the door. So it's very obvious when it's the Yurei. So it gives itself away when it uses its sanity drain ability, which is its main strength. The only strength that the Yurei has is that it can drain your sanity a bit quicker and then get a hunt in, like a cheeky hunt in there. But it's like so bad because the Jinn does this twice as good and it doesn't give away that it does it. So I think I actually originally had this in B tier, but now that I'm explaining it, like, I don't think I can put this above C tier. Like, you would think, oh, it drains your sanity. It can be dangerous, and you can get early hunted. But no, not really, because if you get it once, you instantly know that you're dealing with a Yurei, right? So whereas the Jinn can like chip away at your sanity and surprise early hunt you, the Yurei can't do that. Because if you get that to happen, you like instantly know, oh, hey, it's a Yurei, and then you can just leave, or you can eat more sanity pills and like stay healthy. It does do it a bit more often recently because they have buffed all abilities, which also makes the Yokai a lot stronger, by the way. They have buffed all ability frequency, so now any ghost with an ability will do it more often. But again, the Jinn will do that too. The Jinn eats your sanity twice as effective as the Yurei, and it doesn't have a way that it tells you that it does it. So I don't know why they should just turn this around. They should just give the Yurei a huge sanity drop, like maybe even 50%. But then it gives itself away, right? 50% sanity drop, and then it gives itself away. This could make it very scary if you're a completionist. If you're a completionist and you want to finish the whole quest, do all objectives, and you just lost 50% sanity, that could be cool. I don't know why it's such a low number, why it's 13%. That's ridiculous. So yeah, I think we have a pretty balanced list here. Let me know what you thought. Do you agree with my list? Where would you make changes? Would you, like, I know there's some things that people might change. Some people might say Shade or Hantu might be different. The Revenant might be higher or lower for some people. The Yokai might be higher or lower for some people. The Mimic as well. But this is my list. My opinions change all the time. I love learning things about the game. I love being wrong and learning something new and then getting like a better opinion on things. But this is my opinion as of now. Let me know what you thought. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you liked the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. And if you want to join the Love the Gamers here in chat, you can join us over at twitch.tv/insym every single day at 7 p.m. Central European time. Thank you very much for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye. Also, again, if you want to learn more about all these ghosts in more detail than I went over in this one, or if you think I left some stuff out, I guarantee you that I will have included everything that any ghost can do in the ghost guide that, again, I linked over in the top right if you want to learn more about the ghost. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.